This is an overdue review. I admit it. SOG Trident folder. Welcome. This is Nutnfancy. This is a tabletop of this excellent assisted opening folding knife. And yeah, I should have done it last year. Why didn't I? I'm going to be honest with you. I was prejudiced against this design. I really was. And it kind of goes down to some preferences I had with blade to handle ratios. To explain what I'm talking about, I'm going to bring in my Microtech Mini SOCOM Elite, previously reviewed in the Nutnfancy project. This knife has an ideal 1-to-1 handle to blade ratio. Pretty close. I mean, may not be perfect, but you can see that the blade is very long for the size of handle. And for the longest time, this was my preference. Now remember, when I say on my channel page, my videos incorporate my views at the time they're made, don't forget that, because I am subject to change. I mean, there might be some things that I learn in my experiences, maybe from others, that may sway how I feel about a certain design feature on a gun, a knife, maybe a piece of outdoor gear. I think we're all that way, aren't we? And the Mini SOCOM Elite, for the longest time, kind of defined an efficient blade design for me. Now granted, this is an automatic knife. In fact, it's one of my duty blades that I carry with me in the military. It's seen a fair amount of use. Still love it, and I really love how lightweight, how quick, and how big that blade is for such a small handle. However, in using some other blades, I have grown more fond, if that's the right terminology, of a larger handle. This comes partially due to my military use, where I'm often gloved with my hands, and therefore a smaller handle like this one may not be big enough. And you can see my hands again kind of trend towards the larger size, and you know, it's all I can do to fit my whole hand on the Mini SOCOM Elite handle. By the way, this knife is out of production. Sadly, they limited it. I guess that's good. Bad for those who want one. But I'm digging bigger handles now. And I have grown to appreciate perhaps a ratio that is not in line with a 1-to-1 ratio, i.e. the handle is bigger and longer than the blade. I wasn't always like that, and it's only been within the last year that I've warmed up to these designs, and that was my prejudice against a SOG Trident folding knife. I did not like how the ratio was out of whack. But in using the blade, I will tell you, I love it. And I was wrong. I was wrong in feeling that way, because it is often very advantageous to have a longer handle. Gives you more real estate. Remember, I used that term real estate when I discussed the handle on these folders, and it's good to have that real estate for grasping. Now, that being said, I have warmed up to the Trident design. And let me do a little deviation here by saying that there is some prejudice against SOG, which I think is completely unfounded, primarily in the forums of some sort of another, guys that don't like SOG for one reason or another. That's not me. I am a SOG fan. I've reviewed several of their blades here at the Nutnfancy project. Generally positive reviews. Again, I am not swayed by forum groupthink. And that's what I call it. When a forum establishes a norm and everybody trying to be cool and be accepted by the forum, maybe not be cool, but to be accepted and go along with what's generally accepted within that forum, a group think establishes itself. In other words, a common way of thinking about a manufacturer, maybe a certain blade, and I think it's generally off and it's not accurate. Now, at the Nutnfancy project, I'll do my very best to be accurate in the review of these blades and unbiased. If there's something good, I'll tell you. If there's something bad, I'll tell you that too. Again, it's according to my own preferences and experiences, and as such, it's just a data point, a Nutnfancy data point, and that's what I'll do with this SOG Trident. Overall, I will say it is an outstanding knife, and I love it. You know, my prejudices having been overcome with experience. And that's me. That's just my progression as a knife user, knife collector, whatever. One thing I love about, there's lots of things I'm going to say positive about this knife. In fact, I really don't have a lot of negative things to say about the Trident. One of them I like, and this will come to no surprise to my TMP subscribers, is the speed of deployment. It comes out fast. It's the standard assisted opening that SOG provides, and it's wicked fast. Along the lines of my much heralded flash reviews. I love the flash designs, both 1 and 2 from SOG knives. Love them. They're fast. And guess what? The Trident is no less. I love the speed. The blade isn't small either. When I first started studying the Trident years ago, I was kind of turned off again. I hate to keep harping on this, but to me the blade looked kind of small. It's not. It's 3 3/4 inches long. That's a decent blade. It kind of puts it in maybe on the larger size of tactical folders. And this knife could go into either category. It could go into a tactical folder category. Again, there's that word, tactical. Or it could go into EDC. Either one. Depends on what you want to do with your knife. I think it would serve admirably in either role quite nicely. And with a 3.75 inch blade made out of AUS 8 steel, it's a high quality blade. I would say medium to high quality. AUS 8 is not the best steel out there. I think most of us know that. But it's a medium high quality steel, and I've had good experience with it from a variety of manufacturers, to include SOG and Spyderco. Be careful, like I've said in some other reviews, it will rust on you. It's not the most rust resistant steel out there, but it strikes some good balances in edge retention, toughness, and durability. I've been happy with it, and I'm not displeased with it. I think talking of the SOG prejudice out there, I think some guys were pissed off when SOG used AUS 6 steel in their knives, and I am sympathetic to that because I hate that steel. I think AUS 6 is a soft steel and it's completely inadequate for knife use. That's just me. That's my prejudice and my own experience using it. And I was glad to see that they finally went over to AUS 8. But the blade steel in the Trident is adequate. Nicely shaped clip blade. Nice sweep in that. What's a pointer? I'll use that Steigerwalt again. Nice sweep here. This sweep is very crucial to EDC tasks because most of the cutting tasks you're going to be using, or I'm sorry, employing the blade in, are going to be cutting right here, in my experience. Some down here, like if you're cutting rope, maybe some cloth or something down here. Maybe food preparation takes place down here. But most of the use of an EDC blade, like I've said many times, right around here, and I want some sweep to do that. The tip is sharp on the Trident as well, and it's not a weak tip as far as folders go, at least as far as I can detect. I have not hard used this knife by way of revelation. In other words, I haven't gone out and really thrashed on it. If I find out something about the blade, like on all my reviews, and it's relevant and maybe changes the way I look or I reviewed the blade, I will post a response video and I'll update it. I've done that with some blades before, kind of like the Benchmade CSK2. Currently doing it with a cold steel pocket Bushman. Things that I think might be relevant to your information base on the blade. So I'll do the best to get you that information. But right now, all indications show great blade, great blade. Love the shape of it, and it is flat ground from this portion. As you can see, that grind line coming down. Yes, I remain a fan of flat ground blades. I also like hollow ground blades. There's some cold steel varieties out there. Dig those. How's the edge on the SOG Trident? Well, first appearance is not impressive. It is sharp. Don't get me wrong. It is sharp, but it is not hair-popping sharp, so to speak. At least I don't think so. It cuts adequately. I would like a razor-sharp edge on all my blades when they come out of the box, and sometimes SOGs are not that way. It's just the way it is. This one, again, adequately sharp, but it could probably be stood or withstand some touch-up. Unsharpened swedge on the top. I love the blade shape. Dig it. That takes us to the jimping. This is going to be a hit on the design. The jimping is pretty much cosmetic only. Why put jimping on there if it's not going to be sharp enough to dig into the thumb, providing traction? Okay? And this one is not. It slides off. You can see that the jimping is radius. Let me put something behind here so you can focus on it. There you go. You can see the radius job. In order to make that jimping sharp, it's got to have some sharp indentations in those valleys. Anytime you radius it, you just basically defeated the whole purpose of jimping, in my opinion. Unless you're just doing it for aesthetic reasons, which I think is a complete waste of time. You know, it should be sharpened. Now, this is my own knife. I bought it because I liked it enough that I want it in the inventory. I'll talk about colorations here in a sec. These could be improved by some very careful Dremel tooling. Maybe getting a wheel that would go down here and sharpen those lands, those bottom lands up, and I will probably do this. And I hope I don't screw it up. It's something that I've done in other blades. You've seen some videos of it, but this could be cured. If we did that, then suddenly this thumb ramp on the Trident becomes much more effective. Right now, my thumb's sliding all over the place, but if I were to improve that jimping, then it locks in nicely. And speaking of locking in, that'll take us to the handle. Again, it's big enough that you're going to get a good grasp on it. Not too deep of a finger groove on the bottom. And we have the thumb ramp, albeit with a jimping problem. You can lock in if you hold it really tight with a Trident. That might be important in the thrust attack, which you could employ the knife in. I think it would do quite a good job. The tip is sharp, adequately strong, enough sweep. I think it'll penetrate well. Kind of proved that in my stabbing protocol video on the Rat 1 folder that has a very upswept drop point blade. And if that blade's going to penetrate well, I pretty much guarantee you this one will as well. Decent. Thumb studs, like most, I shouldn't say most, but many of the SOG designs, well designed. Terraced, no volcano problems here. That volcano, again, is that triangular shape where you can't get traction on them. I like the thumb studs on it. Good traction. And it's ambidextrous, so if you're a lefty, you can access it just as quick. Locks up nice and tight, mostly. Actually, this one, when it came to me, had a little bit of play side to side, and that is pretty standard for the assisted opening SOGs. And I find that you're going to have to do some judicious tightening of the pivot screw. Just a little bit. Just tweak it a little bit, and you can eliminate all that side-to-side play without reducing the speed of deployment. As you can see, this one locks up really tight now, laterally and also up and down. No movement at all. So tight. Now, I've used a lot of the flash models for years, and I have noted that occasionally you'll get some wiggle in them, and you're going to have to tweak them as the years go on. But for everything else I get in the designs of these lightweight, super fast SOG designs, I'm willing to put up with that. I don't mind it. Some guys may have issues with it. And again, there's a lot of preferences. I mean, some guys dig stuff, others don't. That's just the way it is. I'm hip to that. The handle itself, nothing special. Zytel, and it has that digital digi-grip or whatever SOG calls it. I'm not super impressed by it. I think it's more aesthetic than anything. I mean, it's not something that I grasp and go, wow, man, the traction on that is amazing. No, I don't do that. However, it is adequate. I sure wish they included something on the back spine, since it is not a pillar constructed or flow through knife. All this is smooth. I would love to see traction material here. I'd like to see these these grooves here, somewhat along the lines of jimping, be purposeful. They're not. They also provide zero traction. So there's some improvements which could be made here. You know, the sides are decent though, not too bad. This is your lock, and again, the lock it prevents it deploying. So once we have it locked, you can't actuate that thumb stud for deployment reasons. What I do on all these SOG models is I super glue that to the red or ready to deploy position. I do not think a lock on an assisted opening knife is necessary. I don't. It just gets in the way. And more often than not, you're going to accidentally actuate that lock button, try to deploy it and go, oh, crap, I've got the lock on. Then you're going to fiddle around and waste time finding the lock, then turning it off, then you can deploy it. Just super glue it, be done with it. This is an arc lock knife. I've heard only good things about them. I haven't heard any complaints. Very similar to the Benchmade Axis lock in function. Adequately strong, locks up solidly, real easy to deploy. The Axis lock on Benchmade's is one of my all-time favorite lock mechanisms. It is. I just love it. And the arc lock is very similar to it. It's a side actuated lock mechanism. It's just ergonomic. I mean, your thumb is already here on the side of the knife. There it is. That doesn't mean I don't like liner locks, doesn't mean I don't like lockbacks. It's just, you know, that's my preference. I love the side lock mechanisms. They're cool. Okay, this is the cord cutting feature of the Trident. I think it's pretty much worthless. Okay, again, I'll depart with conventional wisdom. Let me get some 550 cord. Let's go ahead and slide this 550 cord in here and see if it cuts. It does. However, I don't think that is a feature I'd be using a lot. And unlike a Benchmade, maybe Rescue Hook 5, where it cuts like readily. Let me grab that. I think I have one right here. Just a sec. I have my Rescue 5 here, and let's compare the cutting capabilities. Okay, this is the Benchmade Rescue 5. We take our 550 cord, and you can see how easily that cuts. Now this is a cord cutter. You see it does not take a lot of stress, doesn't take a lot of force to accomplish the cut. Not so with the Trident. First, you're going to have to manipulate the knife into position to use it, and then, in my experience, maybe I'm just a weakling, I got to pull on it relatively hard. Now, that being said, it might have been a little bit harsh to say it's a useless feature. I'll take that back. It's a cool feature. It comes at no additional price to us. It is built into the knife. I don't know how often I personally would use it because it's such a fast thing to get the blade out. I mean, the blade comes out so quickly, so readily. You know, why would I want to fool with it? Now, some guys will say, well, there's certain situations where you do not want to employ your blade, and it's safer to cut cord like that. But again, it takes some tension, and it only works on that portion of the blade. So, like I've said in other videos, and like I just said in this one, this is where most of your wear and tear is going to take place on your blade. What's going to happen is that generally won't be razor sharp. I mean, this blade is new, so it's relatively sharp, like I mentioned, and so it's going to function well. As soon as that dulls down, not so effective. Just be advised, it's not all that, is my point. The blade, the clip, the bayonet style clip, the SOG does is outstanding. Let me lower this a little bit. I love the pocket clips of SOGs. I've said so in many reviews, and again, to me, it's kind of the standard of all tactical / EDC folders. That's because it carries deeply in the pocket, which might be a factor if you want to hide the knife. You know, also it prevents it from getting popped out and lost. It's real easy for a clip that's high mounted to grab on something and then get popped out of your pocket and get lost. Now, the coloration of this particular SOG Trident is, you know, obviously plain or satin finish, so to speak. I like it. I think that's a beautiful finish on the blade. Carries over to the clip. The clip is somewhat matte finished, and so that's not the most hideable or, you know, concealable clip. However, you could DuraCoat it, maybe even paint it. I recommend DuraCoating anytime you want to change the color of your knife, and it would hide quite nicely. Love that clip. Love it. Switch it side to side too if you wanted to. There is a standard all clips in knives as far as I'm concerned. The handle itself, again, very ergonomic, long enough to provide a lot of traction, whatever you need it to. A lot of upsides. The weight, forgot to talk about that, is pretty darn lightweight. What would you say is lightweight, Nutnfancy? 3.6 ounces. Under 4 ounces, my arbitrary weight limit for knives of this size and category. But that makes it lightweight. Lots of upsides on the SOG Trident. I think the steel is adequate. Love the blade shape. The handle traction, adequate. Light enough, very fast, solid lockup once you tweak it. Yes, there are some downsides. Like I mentioned, the jimping is a problem. We should have some type of traction on the back spine of here, and that's about it, other than the things I've mentioned. SOG Trident won't break the bank either. Around $60, you're going to get a 3 3/4 inch blade that can serve an EDC and emergency defensive roles. And it comes in a variety of colorations too. Before I end, let me show you what I'm talking about. Here's one off the SOG website. That is the Desert Digital coloration. That is good looking. Sorry for the flare I have coming off of there. And then if we go to the Knives Plus website, there's that one very similar to the SOG Aegis that I reviewed. woodland desert or woodland digital pattern. What they should do, I still don't know why they haven't done this, is put a plain blade on that SOG. Don't do the partially serrated blades. I do not like the SOG serrations. I don't. I just don't dig them. I think they're coarse, and as usual, all their plain edge knives sell out much more readily than the serrated versions. So make this knife, Desert Digital or the Woodland Digital, in a plain blade. Black would be fine. You know, going back to that tan one, a tan blade with the Desert Digital plain edge would be even better. I need to go up to SOG, talk to them about that. Maybe we'll make a Nutnfancy special edition knife. We'll talk to SOG, see if they're game. Overall, I like the SOG Trident a lot. It has a lot to offer. I've overcome my prejudices to see the benefits in this wonderfully constructed, high value, larger size EDC/emergency defensive knife. I will integrate it into my own systems. If I find out something weird about the knife, again, you'll see an update coming from me. Also, I am probably going to acquire another one, maybe even this one, and DuraCoat it in Coyote Brown or another cool color. Look for that. You'll see the project sometime in the Nutnfancy project. I actually like the coloration of this one quite nicely. It's a good looking blade, and for that brightness in a lot of different situations is a good thing if you're using it for emergency defensive use. Nutnfancy, I gotta run, man. Beautiful, beautiful knife. SOG Trident, thanks for the support coming out. Thanks for being there. I'll be there for you. I'm out. See ya.